There's that feeling of dread in the air for Nintendo fans. No, I'm not talking about Nintendo reaching its lows like the Nintendo Wii U era. I'm talking about the beginning of the end for the Nintendo Switch. Word has it that we may experience yet another Nintendo Direct coming up, either later this month or sometime in March. Some speculate that this is one of Nintendo's usual directs where they'll talk about the games coming out this year for the system, alongside the games announced last year. Some speculate that it's a partner direct that showcases third-party titles, and a few speculate that it's all about remasters, remakes, and the like, which, ironically, I'm okay with. But regardless if the next direct is about new games, remasters, or third parties, one thing is clear. We're nearing the end of one of Nintendo's best eras, the Nintendo Switch era. The Switch has become the third best-selling console in video game history, ahead of the Game Boy/Game Boy Color and the PlayStation 4, while behind on the Nintendo DS and Sony's legendary PlayStation 2. What an amazing turnaround from the Nintendo Wii U's failure. As a longtime Nintendo fan since the NES days, I'm going to miss this era. The reason why I enjoyed the Switch so much was because of the amount of legacy games that came to the system. And I'm not talking about the games that were on the Xbox One and PlayStation 4, but also games dating back to even before the previous generation. Hence why I refer to the Switch as more of a legacy-inspired system. Much like the Xbox Series system that the Switch is outselling. I mean, what a shame, for crying out loud. If there was one thing that made me glad to be a fan of the Nintendo Switch, is that there are some games that never released on a Nintendo console at all. Games like Final Fantasy VII, Katamari Damacy, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, Devil May Cry, Ori and the Blind Forest, Saints Row the 3rd and 4, Darksiders 1 and 2, Burnout Paradise, .hack/GU, and Night Trap, to name a few, finally embraced Nintendo's handheld hybrid. Some of these games were legendary in their days. Others finally got a second chance to shine on Nintendo Switch. Another reason to be glad to enjoy the Switch was the number of Wii U titles that were salvaged onto the system. While I do want to list a number of them, the most obvious one happens to be Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. It was because it contained everything from the Wii U version for the Switch with some extras, but also because Nintendo added new DLC to the game, including new characters and stages from past Mario Kart games. Granted, there are some Wii U titles that are still bound to that system, but the fact that Nintendo was able to give some of these games a second chance says a whole lot. The last thing I'm glad about the Nintendo Switch wasn't just the amount of indie titles that got to shine on the Switch, but also the fact that some of these games got physical copies, courtesy of companies like Limited Run Games, Super Rare Games, I Am 8-Bit, Red Art Games, and Fangamer, to name a few. There are some of us who prefer the simplicity of an indie title that takes us back to the good old days of the NES, Super NES, Sega Genesis, Game Boy, and Game Gear days, while some of us still enjoy collecting Switch carts. Either way, it was expensive, and yet fun to collect physical media on the Nintendo Switch. Here's hoping that the Switch 2 will feature backwards compatibility for all our physical libraries. My only complaint about the Nintendo Switch, I wish there were more legacy titles on the system. While game companies embrace a future that is bigger and more detailed and full of microtransactions, I want to celebrate its legendary past. There are tons of titles from previous generations that deserve to be not just on Nintendo Switch, but all across the board. And it's too bad that a huge number of games from before 2010 are unavailable, including a few games taken off the Switch eShop. That's a damn shame. Gamers deserve to play the classics of the past just to see how we used to enjoy video games, even if they added in new features to entice them, like Final Fantasy Pixel Remastered. Sometimes it's still fun to enjoy the classics of the past. 2024 is, in a way, the true swan song era for Nintendo Switch. We truly don't know the final games coming to the system, nor do we know when its successor will come out, how powerful it will be, and if it will especially feature backwards compatibility. and that's a part of me that wants them to finally reveal the system so we can erase all that doubt. But hey, only time will tell how the Nintendo Switch era will come to a close. Anyway, that's my opinion. What's yours?